by Simon Flores. It was painted when he got a judge level in government. And that, according to Ambe Campo, are is the gown, the attire for somebody who finishes law from UST. With 6 other men. Here they are. Perhaps you can read this for me? Yeah.
Okay. 7 wise men. A subcommittee of 7 from the Constitutional Convention drafted the 1935 Constitution. Photographed before the session hall of the Legislative Building, these delegates were Dr. Wright, Norberto Romualdez.
That's a grandfather of Martin. Yeah.
Conrado Benitez, Manuel Rojas, Filemon Soto, Vicente Simpson, Manuel Briones, and Miguel Cuader.
So you can recognize some of those names, and you can understand why the communists remain in the hills. Because the seat of power and the positions of power pretty much remain in the same circles. I'm sad to say. Hopefully that can be expanded, you know. And the Benitezes were very fortunate, I have to say. They've been in government. The Benitezes have been fortunate to be in the education sector, and middle, which we've now moved to the gallery, were made in Paete in Pakil, near Pagsanghan, because this is where the family was from. And then over here, when the family moved here, they had these shelves made and this particular frame made specially to house the books of paid homage to furniture here. The third kind of furniture you will find would be the ones from the 70s. You know, when China opened to the world, furniture started to leave China, okay? And they were sold all over Southeast Asia, and many came. You know, in the 30s, when houses were built in the 20s, most of them were Art Deco style. But this family was quite conservative. So you can see very little of the Art Deco, except for the transoms up there, the tours. I speak about these 3 paintings because they kind of represent the developer. Lorenzo was a painter in Italy, and he came back to the Philippines with his Italian wife. He was able to purchase a home where his family continues to live in Singapore. And so in exchange, to thank them, he painted a double portrait of Francisca Tirona Benitez and her youngest son, Alfredo. 1957 by Amorsoro. So different from the Lorenzo, Giuseppe Lorenzo over there, because it's like a copy, mimesis of a portrait, of a photograph, you know. Pulido, the lines are very delineated. The crystal chandelier. And I cannot imagine my grandparents having brought that from France. Maybe it was at the time when maybe they got this. These 2 chairs it has the seal of the, perhaps that's why we ended up with these 3. And Conrado indeed was a good friend of Manuel Quezon's. He tried to get him to work for government, but he said, no, I'm a teacher, I will teach at UP. That will be my contribution to your administration. So, so welcome to the 2nd floor. This is the private space of that family. Downstairs was for entertaining. This was where they had their breakfasts, they had their desks, they worked. And Delia, our administrator, has her desk here. She's been with the family for 40 years. She came in as a librarian from PWU. She retired from PWU and she continued to here in this round table, books about the house and books by the family, about various different things, including my books. Please feel free to go through, but maybe better that we go together so you can hear my stories. Let's go to the master bedroom.
Talaga?
It's nice. Later. It's one by one. This is a small stairs.
Oo nga. Small steps lang.
I believe this must have come from Pagsangka. You see the anti-bed because of this half squash here, the grapes in the center. This is, as you see, Murano glass chandelier. This was a walk-in times with the Muslim sisters in the south because PWU was founded precisely not to be a sectarian school. It's non-religious. And so it was a good alternative for our Muslim sisters to so they were embedded, in fact. They were embedded into these places. And so she said that one is Santa Cruz and this is Escolta. And they must would come and take over the house. So what did Francisca do? She probably moved herself to the garage. Because the garage had there were intentions of that. We are not in Lagnita, we're not in Malate where there was a lot of destruction. 100,000 people were killed, right? During the withdrawal, or the non-withdrawal of the Japanese. Over here, the Japanese planted 16 mines in different places, including behind the piano by the flower beds, including up in the Torre. All of that were cuentos of Helena to me, and it used to go here. Anyway, I paid the pension later on, and I was writing all of these down. And she said that these were all decommissioned that's why the Japanese also moved here. I would say that was the reason. The Japanese also converted Sampaguita studios and pictures into a garrison. So much so that the Vera Perez's kept the cannon facing out in the driveway just to remind people that they were made into a garrison, and lots of people killed and tortured there, so it was very sad. Now New Manila was taken over by the Japanese as well, by the civil soldiers, the civic body or arm of the Japanese, their engineers, their doctors, and then they converted Katipunan Road, what was then just a road, into their runway for their airplanes. So all of this really was very important to the Japanese because of the Philippine Constabulary camp. So when they came, I should have told you those stories about the Japanese. When they came, the first thing they did, was to shoot down the RCA tower. They had that transmitter here in Cubao. That's the first thing they did. And then they moved into here. The houses in New Manila, here, the Philippine Constabulary. So this is a storied area. Of course, you don't notice that anymore. But little stories like that we share in our tours, and hopefully they get written down somehow, somewhere. Okay. We have a torre, single rooms. There's not really a lot to see, but it's quite nice. The whole of Manila, go up with your please ready. Ang script niya ay alaman.
I have to wait. It's cool, eh? It's really hard to hold that. Ano ba?
Now it's more buildings, and you could actually see the airport
before.
Si ano, ni Helen. Yung sinabi, sa bakood. Sabi ko maglagay ko na.
And so that's one of the reasons why the house is well maintained, because there was always somebody living here. One of the things that never moved out of this room was the portrait of Helena, done by her classmate, Anita Magsaysay, who later became Anita Magsaysay. Oh, they were classmates at PWC in Padre Faura of UP. And then she would come to women's for her regular classes. Purita Carol Ledesma also was a student at PWC, and when she did the same, she was taking classes in the School of Fine Arts. So you see here, Helena was a staunch Catholic. Her father was a staunch Mason. So downstairs, I didn't show you, but there's a whole slew of things that have to do with Masonry.
Yes.
The transoms that you see, they're also very much Masonic in the way that the compass, and then I think the T-square, face each other, and then there's an eye. So it's a stylized version of a Masonic sign. And I don't know whether the Francisca and her daughters knew about that, but I'm sure it was very much, it made Conrado very happy to have a little bit, a touch of the Masonry here. Gregorio Paredes, the architect, who was the cousin of Francisca, was also a Mason. In the old days, so many people joined the Mason movement as a show of independence from the Catholic Church. Right? And so, family is very Catholic, but then also quite pro-Mason in that way. Here I put, because we had to actually cull through so much of the pieces. The family had given it importance. So I put, again, the public life, pictures of their public life and pictures of their private life. These are the 5 people who moved into the house. Conrado, his wife Francisca, Helena, the daughter, the oldest, Tomas, the second boy, who's my dad, and then that's Alfredo, the one who has a bad heart. And those are their pictures and their families up there. My 4th generation family. We're very numerous. And then here you have the public life. You have Murphy. When he went to New York, he was already the Commonwealth President of the Philippines, and he invited Helena. So there's Helena. And then here is Frank Murphy. And then that's Colonel and Mrs. McMeeking. Mercedes Sobel de Ayala McMeeking. This was the gown of Francisca when she celebrated her 50th anniversary as president. 50th year working at PWU. And then the pink one was what Helena wore when she was pledged in as senator of the Republic of the Philippines. Books that were cataloged. We have 500 more books to do.
Just 500 more. Just 500 more.
Just 500 more. Yeah. Okay.